Welcome to the WION podcast, where we explore fascinating stories and ideas from various fields. In this episode, we explore how Europe's landmark AI law is taking effect, introducing sweeping rules that could reshape nearly every artificial intelligence system operating across the continent. For the technology industry, the countdown to a new era of accountability has begun. In days, the European Union's AI Act stops being a framework companies are preparing for and becomes a law they are required to follow. August 2, 2026, is when the core obligations of the EU AI Act come into force for the majority of AI systems operating in the European market. Legal analysts tracking the rollout have described it as the most consequential single date in AI regulation history. Not because it's the first AI-specific law anywhere, but because of the scale of what it covers. Any AI system, built by any company anywhere in the world that operates in or serves the European market, falls within its scope from that date. The Commission has been finalizing the practical details right up to the deadline. On July 20th, the European Commission published guidelines specifically on transparency obligations for providers and deployers of certain AI systems. The rules governing what companies must disclose about how their AI systems work and make decisions. Just over a month earlier, on June 29th, the Council of the European Union gave its final approval to the AI Omnibus regulation, amending the core AI Act and settling compliance timelines that had remained uncertain until that vote. The obligations taking effect cover transparency requirements, risk classification, and documentation standards for AI systems, with the heaviest requirements falling on what the Act classifies as higher-risk applications. For any global AI company, from the major US labs to the Chinese labs currently undercutting them on price, operating in Europe now means operating under a compliance regime with no real precedent elsewhere. The timing lands awkwardly for an industry mid-pricing war and mid-compute arms race. Labs racing to ship cheaper, faster models on ever-tighter timelines now also need to route those releases through a regulatory framework that didn't exist in its current form a year ago. Not every jurisdiction is moving in lockstep. In the United States, no federal preemption of state AI laws has been enacted, and the litigation and legislative push around Executive Order 14365 continues without a statutory resolution, meaning US AI companies are simultaneously navigating an unsettled domestic patchwork and a now binding unified European regime. California's own AI Transparency Act separately became operative in August as well, adding a third layer for any company operating across both markets. For an industry that has largely operated on ship first, adjust later, August 2nd marks the point where at least one major market stops allowing that approach by default.
The relentless heat wave continues unabated here in Korea, with the scorching daytime temperatures and tropical nights offering little relief. Our Park Chae-ryung tells us more.
People are lining the banks of the Cheonggyecheon stream in central Seoul, dipping their feet in the water to temporarily forget the deadly heat. As of 6 a.m. Wednesday, heat wave alerts were in effect across most of the country. The warnings covered large parts of the nation, while advisories remained in place in several other areas. A small number of locations were under the highest level heat wave emergency warning. People are struggling to cope with the relentless heat.
I think today is the hottest it's been lately. I can't go anywhere without a parasol. I've only been walking for a minute or two since getting off the bus, but I'm already sweating. It's really hot.
It is very hot. We're from Florida, and this heat is still more intense than Florida. We are just constantly sweating and having to drink water. It's very hot.
The heat not only feels uncomfortable, but it is also life-threatening. According to the Korea Disease Control and Prevention Agency, at least 9 people have died and nearly 1,500 cases of heat-related illness have been reported since mid-May. The weekly figure had remained at around 100 or below for nearly 2 months. But in the week of July 10th to July 16th, the number jumped from 75 to 452, which is an increase of just over 500%. It fell to 225 the following week, but another 287 cases were reported in just 4 days before July 24th and 27th. The most severe conditions have been concentrated in the southern regions. In Gyeongsang-namdo Province, a heatwave emergency warning was issued as the temperature was forecast to feel as hot as 38 degrees Celsius or higher, which are levels considered potentially life-threatening. It is also reported that as of 3:30 p.m. Wednesday, Yangsan in Gyeongsang-namdo Province exceeded 40 degrees. The government urged people to avoid all non-essential outdoor activities or work. It also advised people to move to air-conditioned or shadowed areas and drink a lot of water and take frequent breaks. Park Chae-ryung, Arirang News.
The Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has met with the American President Donald Trump once again at a time when peace in West Asia remains elusive. Netanyahu's visit also overlapped with his attendance at the Senator Lindsey Graham's funeral. The Israeli leader called his meeting with Donald Trump to be one of the best yet, while Trump said that Bibi cannot tell him what to do with Iran's Pickaxe Mountain. Now, this in fact was the first face-to-face meeting between Donald Trump and Bibi, and since the US-Israeli joint strikes on Iran in February. But outside the meeting, protests unfolded, if not one, but two different groups. A multi-faith gathering demonstrated against Netanyahu's US visit, and on the other hand, there were also some Jewish Americans and other Americans who lashed out at the Israeli Prime Minister for being, quote-unquote, a war criminal.
Today we had a multi-faith, nonviolent witness of Jewish and Christian and Muslim and groups here in D.C. We're here to resist the architect of war, Benjamin Netanyahu, who is in D.C. meeting with our president once again.
Claims that all Jews support his movement and his actions, his crimes, and he misuses our religion and our identity to justify all these criminal actions. We say no. All of this, all that Israel stands for, this genocide in Gaza, this murder in the West Bank, this whole occupation of 78 years in Palestine, all of this is ridiculous. All of this is criminal.
While Netanyahu was in the United States, protests also broke out back home. Hundreds, in fact, stepped out in Tel Aviv, slamming the Israeli settler violence in occupied West Bank. The Israeli citizens said that the violent instances endanger the Palestinians and also the Israelis.
The reason I'm here today is because what we have seen coming out of the West Bank just the past week, but the past months and years is horrifying, it's immoral, and we believe that it is endangering not only Palestinians who are witnessing ethnic cleansing and the evacuation of their homes, but it's also endangering all of us.
Questions are mounting across Western intelligence circles over who is truly pulling the strings in West Asia. Targeted missile barrages hitting high-value targets, including the massive American air base at Al Udeid, have exposed a level of precision that caught Washington and its Gulf allies off guard. As analysts probe whether Moscow and Beijing are using Iran as a proxy front, a new report claims that China is preparing to quietly ship new missiles to Iran. Take a look at this report.
Fighter jets and precision strikes. Sometimes the most dangerous weapon is the one a soldier can carry on his shoulder. It can hide in a building, move through terrain, appear without warning. Now, according to a Reuters report, Iran could soon have hundreds more. Sources say Tehran has signed a deal worth between $60 and $70 million for 300 to 400 Chinese-made man-portable air defense systems, or MANPADS. The reported package includes the QW-12 and FN-16. The QW-12 and FN-16 are infrared guided shoulder-fired surface-to-air missiles designed to attack low-flying aircraft, helicopters and drones. Its mobility allows small teams to rapidly reposition and create a dispersed air defense threat. The biggest battlefield advantage of the shoulder-fired missiles is mobility, allowing operators to shift positions quickly and complicate enemy air operations. According to sources cited by Reuters, initial deliveries could move by air from Urumqi in western China, transit through Pakistan and then reach Iran. The exact method of transfer remains unclear. The deal was signed with Zhongqing Baoshang International Investment, a Hong Kong-based company. China has called the report completely groundless. Pakistan has called claims of its involvement false, but the strategic implications remain. Iran's air defense network has been exposed during months of war. Fixed systems can be targeted, radar sites can be located, military bases can be struck. Portable missiles change that equation. In the ongoing war in West Asia, the terrifying accuracy of Iranian missiles have stunned America. One of the biggest strikes was on Al Udeid Air Base in Qatar. It is the biggest US base in West Asia. This comes in the backdrop of reports saying Moscow and Beijing kept Iran in the fight without firing a shot. The pattern is indirect aid, technology, components, expertise. Iran's degraded air force and stretched defenses no longer match the scale of its strikes. Yet the attacks surprised US and Gulf allies. That gap points to external support. If Russia and China are behind the surge, the strategy is simple. Keep the US stretched, raise the cost of air operations, force Gulf partners to hedge, and do it all below the threshold that triggers a direct clash. Bureau Report WION, World is One.